Now, I do apologize for continuing to use this webcam, but my other camera takes so long to upload with. I don't know why using another camera takes so long to upload, but I just don't have the patience for it at the moment. So I do apologize for the video quality. But, recently I've ranked the Halloween movies, I gave my opinions on all the Batman movies again, and I thought, I wouldn't leave Bond, James Bond, out. It's my VHS retro collection over there of all the first 19 films. I do have a 20th. It's here. Oh, I stretch for it. Die another day. But it doesn't quite fit in my shelf. There's only room for 19. Anyways, I thought it'd be fun to give my ratings of all 24 films. I have done this video before, so this is a remake of that video from 2011, but there's been 2 James Bond films since Skyfall and Spectre, which I might have mentioned in the past. Look, I've still got the price tag on it. So yeah, I thought we'd go through them all from the beginning. I'm going to include Never Say Never Again. I'll get to that when I get to 1983. I know there's been other Bond films outside the official series, like the spoof Casino Royale. I've only seen bits of it, and I don't really count that as a Bond film. And I know there was a television show in America from the 50s. I've only seen clips from it. But I'm only going to do the official 24 films and the one-off Sean Connery remake of Thunderball in 1983. So we're going way back to 1962. I take off this fleece actually. Far too warm. That's better. So we're going back to 1962, and Dr. No was released. It was the first official James Bond film. It was the first to star Sean Connery and the first of 3 directed by Terence Young. I wasn't sure what to make of Dr. No when I first seen it, but it was a very important film, obviously, and had a lot of trademarks in this film that would, be used throughout the series. I would rate it a 7 out of 10, the first James Bond film, Dr. No, in 1962. Just a year later, a follow-on happened, From Russia with Love, in 1963, and it is without doubt one of the best James Bond films ever. I've got to give it an 8 out of 10. It's it's one of the best films ever made for me. This film and Goldfingers is Sean Connery at his best, I believe. Now, Goldfinger itself, I don't think's as good a film overall as From Russia with Love. I would only give it a 7 out of 10. But it has some great scenes in it, no doubt about some of the most iconic scenes in the series. Thunderball from 1965. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. It's just a above average Bond film, but Sean Connery's performance in it is fantastic. You Only Live Twice from 1967. Now, Goldfinger was directed by Guy Hamilton, and Terence Young directed Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Thunderball. You Only Live Twice is directed by Lewis Gilbert, who would also direct The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. We'll get to those in a bit. You Only Live Twice, I'd give a 7 out of 10. It's certainly one of the most distinctive Bond films of all time. On Her Majesty's Secret Service marked the debut of George Lazenby as James Bond and his one and only James Bond. This, like From Russia with Love, is one of the greatest James Bond films of all time. It's one of the gem entries of the series. One of my favourites. I'd have to give it an 8 out of 10. Um, I'd say From Russia with Love just edges it, but this was a outstanding entry to the series. Diamonds Are Forever was the first 70s Bond film that marked the return of Sean Connery in 1971. It has its moments, Diamonds Are Forever, but I can only give it a 6 out of 10. Live and Let Die marked the debut of Roger Moore. I had the privilege of seeing Roger Moore in person last year when he visited Aberdeen. The late, great Sir Roger Moore. He's my personal favourite James Bond. And I thought he was excellent in this film, like he was throughout the franchise. But the film, it is not one of the best, but the atmosphere and some of the set pieces are very, very good. But I can only give it a 6 out of 10. The Man with the Golden Gun followed just a year later in 1974. Now, these films were directed by Guy Hamilton, who directed Goldfinger. He came back for Roger's first two outings and Sean Connery's return, and Honor Majesty's Secret Service, which I forgot to mention, was directed by Peter Hunt. He was an editor in some of the previous films before that. The Man with the Golden Gun, I feel, is Guy Hamilton's weakest film out of the four he made. I can only give it a 5 out of 10. I enjoy some of the set pieces in the film, but overall I was kind of disappointed and wanted more. Roger Moore. And yeah, The Spy Who Loved Me happened 3 years later in 1977. It's the best James Bond film ever. I'm going to just say it. It's still my favourite Bond film. It features my favourite Bond villain and favourite Bond. And it's the Bond film I would show others to get them into the franchise. It's one of the films, it caught my attention in an old advert on a TV I saw years ago when I got into the Bond series. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because it is, to me, the best James Bond film of all time. Next followed one of the weaker Bond films, however, Moonraker. There's some scenes I do enjoy in it, but I have to agree with most of the critics that this film is one of the weaker entries. Double 5 out of 10 for me. I actually enjoy it a little bit more than The Man with the Golden Gun, but it gets no more than a 5 out of 10 for me. For Your Eyes Only from 1981 was the fifth to star Roger Moore, and this is another one of the greats in the series, I think. I really enjoy this film. It's very action-packed, and it's got a cool 80s vibe in it. And I thought Roger Moore was great as ever in this. This is one of his strongest performances, I feel. 8 out of 10 for me. I'll give Octopussy, which is another great film. It was released in 1983, the same year as Never Say Never Again, which was actually released before Octopussy. So I've kind of made a mistake here. I was trying to go in order the films of when they were released, but I mentioned Octopussy first, and I'll give it a 7 out of 10. It seems to get bashed quite a bit sometimes. I don't understand why. I think it's quite a solid entry in the series and one of my favourites. As for Never Say Never Again, I'm going to say, well, there's some more films I'm looking at now that may get a lower mark, but Never Say Never Again is not a good film. Below average. Sean Connery's the only kind of good thing about the film. It's one of those films you can watch time and time again and never remember anything from it. It's just kind of, it's dull. This one is 4 out of 10 for me. It was released the same year as Octopussy. It made less at the box office, and I think Octopussy is far superior. Sean Connery was excellent, Roger Moore's excellent in their roles, but I think overall film-wise, Octopussy was the best Bond that year. A View to a Kill happened in 1985. For Your Eyes Only, Octopussy, and A View to a Kill were all directed by John Glenn, who was, I believe he was second unit director from some of the previous films. Someone can correct me down below if I'm wrong, but I think he was second director. But he directed Dalton's 2 and the late era Roger Moore films. View to a Kill, I think, is a step down, however, from For Your Eyes Only and Octopussy. I can only give it a 6 out of 10. Next, in 1987, the year legends were born. Dalton debuted as Bond, James Bond, and a lot of my friends seem to love Dalton. I appreciate Dalton. I think he was solid in both his Bond appearances. I'd give The Living Daylights and License to Kill, which was released in 1989, 7 out of 10, but I'd give The Edge to License to Kill. I enjoy watching that more. Bond took a hiatus for 6 years, but did return to the big screen in 1995's GoldenEye, the first to feature Pierce Brosnan as Bond. My Bond growing up, if you will, and I enjoyed Pierce Brosnan as Bond. I would give GoldenEye a solid 8 out of 10, but it's overshadowed. The film is overshadowed by the awesome video game, which I would give a 10 out of 10. It's just fucking kick-ass. GoldenEye 64, one of the best games ever made. Tomorrow Never Dies followed in 1997. Now, GoldenEye was directed by Martin Campbell, who also directed Casino Royale. But this is when my Bond knowledge starts to thin a wee bit, because I can't remember who directed Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, or Die Another Day. So you forgive me for not having that information. I suppose I could read off the back of the DVDs, but yeah, I'm a bit thin on that information. I would say I'm a above average Bond fan. I'm more than just a casual, but there's a lot more people out there that know a lot more about James Bond than I do. I still love the franchise, still loving the films and getting into the games now and again. Tomorrow Never Dies, 6 out of 10. The World Is Not Enough was the first film I saw in the cinema in 1999. I was almost 12. It was a disappointment. I was disappointed in the cinema of it. I'd just seen all the previous 18 films and also the unofficial James Bond film, Never Say Never Again. And I thought The World Is Not Enough wasn't as great as some of the entries I had seen, and I was disappointed in it. I can only give it a 6 out of 10. Die Another Day, I saw in 2002 in cinema. This is a really bad movie. It's like the James Bond's Batman and Robin. I was in disbelief at how bad Die Another Day was when I was watching it as a teen in the cinema. I went to see it a few times, but it hasn't aged well either. I think I'm going to rate Die Another Day a 3 out of 10. Worse than Never Say Never Again. Casino Royale was, started the series from scratch. And you could say GoldenEye was sort of the first reboot, if you will. But Casino Royale sort of, made it official. And it was the first of the Daniel Craig era films. Now, the Daniel Craig era films, I've got them all here. Obviously, by this time, there was no such thing as VHS releases, so I would have got them on VHS too, no doubt. But Casino Royale, a lot of people say it's one of the best James Bond films of all time. I can see why, and some of the moments during the film, but I haven't watched it as much as all of the others. It's definitely much better than Die Another Day. I could only give it a 7 out of 10. I'm sorry. I just haven't watched it as much as the others. Haven't been drawn to watch it again and again. It just doesn't feel like the Bonds that I grew up with, and the reason why I got into Bond in the first place. Some of Daniel Craig's films. A lot of people say they're like more like Jason Bourne movies, which is a franchise I haven't seen. I've only saw trailers for it. I hear that quite often, that they're kind of a rip-off of the Bourne films. But I haven't really enjoyed Daniel Craig's era of Bond films. Next up was Quantum of Solace, which I find not very good at all, kind of a boring film. I went to cinema to see it and was like, is this it? 5 out of 10. Skyfall is, I was going to start singing there, then I remembered I can't sing for shit, so I apologize for that. Skyfall from 2012 was released after I made my original Bond ranking video. And I talk about I'm looking forward to seeing Skyfall, and I I don't think I even made a video about it in 2012. I think I mentioned it at the end of the year video. And I enjoyed it at the time, and there's scenes in it I really enjoy. But again, I think it is slightly overrated, and I can only give it a 7 out of 10. But it's a lot better than the latest James Bond film, Spectre, which still got the price tag on, of course. I've watched this twice. I didn't enjoy it in the cinema. I remember coming out disappointed in 2015. And you know what? If Daniel Craig said, "That's it, I'm done," I wouldn't miss him. I don't think he's had his moments, but I don't think he's the definitive Bond, if you will. For me, it's Sean Connery and Roger Moore, and it really depends what mood I'm in. Who's my favourite at the moment? It's always out of those two legends. But Spectre I didn't enjoy second time around. Couldn't wait for the film to end. So Spectre, I'm going to give 4 out of 10. I can't give it any higher than that. So that means Die Another Day, according to my ratings, is the worst James Bond film ever made. I didn't quite enjoy Pierce Brosnan as Bond. It was like a mixture of Roger Moore and Sean Connery. Daniel Craig's like a mixture of Sean Connery and Timothy Dalton. He reminds me of like a second coming of Timothy Dalton. And it may sound like I didn't really like him as Bond, but yeah, of course he did have his moments. I think his strongest performances were in his two best films, Casino Royale and Skyfall. But I don't see myself watching them that often as I did in previous entries in the series. So that's my take on them and the Bond franchise in total. 2019 is when the next James Bond film will be released, the 25th edition of the official series, which began, 1962, over 55 years ago, or almost 55 years ago. I think it debuted in October 15th, I think. I'm not sure what to expect from that film. I believe Daniel Craig is returning to the role for the 5th time. I hope it's a great film. I'll be fairly old by then. I'm gonna feel ancient, saying I was nearly 12 in 1999. Gotta be nearly 32 in 2019. Scary when the next James Bond film is released. But as I say, I do love the Bond franchise. When I do watch it, I do enjoy it. It's the ultimate escapism, and growing up with them given me great memories. And I was blessed to see Roger Moore in person last year. I've got his signature. great human being he was. I really look up to the man, still do. And I like all the Bond actors, really. I thought, Sean Connery, he's my second favourite. Sometimes, he was ahead of Roger Moore, but Roger Moore, for me, just edges him. George Lazenby was arguably the best fighter of the bunch. Timothy Dolan, he was, a great actor in those two films, and he was really believable. Pierce Brosnan had his moments, just his films let him down. And Daniel Craig, has his moments as well. And, but just again, like with Pierce Brosnan, some of his films let him down. Quantum of Solace and Spectre didn't enjoy at all, really. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the James Bond film franchise. I've now covered Halloween, Batman, and the Bond franchise. So yeah, I feel complete.